For centuries, it has remained a text of profound mystery and controversy, a book whispered about in scholarly circles and theological debates. The Book of Enoch holds a unique and contentious place in religious history, revered by some as divine revelation yet dismissed by others as dangerous apocrypha. It is a work that claims to contain the direct teachings and visions of Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, a man who, according to Genesis, walked with God and was taken from the earth without experiencing death. This ancient manuscript offers a startlingly different perspective on the primordial world, one filled with cosmic conflicts, divine secrets, and celestial journeys that expand upon the brief, enigmatic verses found within the canonical Bible. The history of the Book of Enoch is as fascinating as its contents. Once widely read and respected in early Jewish and Christian communities, it gradually fell out of favor and was excluded from the official biblical canon by most denominations. Its influence is undeniable, however, with scholars tracing its themes and language in several books of the New Testament, most notably in the Epistle of Jude, which directly quotes from it. The reasons for its exclusion are complex, tied to shifting theological doctrines and the consolidation of religious authority. Some suggest its detailed descriptions of angels, their fall, and their celestial roles were deemed too elaborate or speculative, threatening to complicate the established narrative of creation and divine order. Why was this book, once so influential, ultimately left behind? The decision to omit it from the sacred scriptures of mainstream Judaism and Christianity was a deliberate one, made by councils and religious leaders centuries after it was written. They sought to create a unified and coherent collection of texts that would form the bedrock of faith. The Book of Enoch, with its elaborate angelology, its detailed cosmology, and its apocalyptic visions of judgment, presented a challenge. It introduced concepts and beings that were not fully developed elsewhere in the Old Testament, potentially opening the door to interpretations that were considered unorthodox or distracting from the central message of God's covenant with humanity. Despite its official exclusion, the book never truly disappeared. It was preserved for generations in Ethiopia, where the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has always accepted it as part of its biblical canon. For the rest of the world, it was lost for over 1,000 years, becoming a thing of legend until it was rediscovered by European explorers in the late 18th century. This rediscovery ignited a new wave of interest and debate that continues to this day. The very act of its suppression has, ironically, fueled an enduring fascination, making people wonder what forbidden secrets and powerful truths might be concealed within its ancient pages, waiting to be unveiled. The modern fascination with the Book of Enoch stems from its promise to fill in the gaps left by the canonical scriptures. It speaks to a deep human desire to understand the unseen spiritual realities that shape our world. Where the Bible offers tantalizingly brief mentions of sons of God and giants, Enoch provides a full-blown narrative of fallen angels, their forbidden unions with human women, and the monstrous offspring they produced. This story of the Watchers provides a dramatic and detailed explanation for the origin of evil, demons, and the widespread corruption that led God to cleanse the earth with the Great Flood, a narrative that resonates with our own struggles against darkness. Furthermore, the book's appeal lies in its breathtaking visionary scope. Enoch does not merely receive prophecies, he is physically transported into the heavens. He journeys through multiple celestial realms, standing before the very throne of God and witnessing the magnificent glory of the seraphim and cherubim. He is shown the inner workings of the cosmos, the storehouses of snow and hail, and the celestial gates through which the sun and moon travel. These vivid, first-hand accounts of the divine realm offer a glimpse into a reality far grander than our own, satisfying a spiritual curiosity about what lies beyond the veil of our mortal existence and the structure of God's magnificent creation. The prophecies contained within the Book of Enoch also hold a powerful grip on the modern imagination, particularly its vision of the end times. Enoch describes a future judgment presided over by a divine figure he calls the Son of Man, the Elect One, and the Righteous One. This being, who existed before the creation of the sun and stars, is destined to judge all of humanity, casting down wicked kings and sinners while bringing eternal peace to the righteous. For many readers, these passages are seen as a powerful pre-Christian prophecy of Jesus Christ, offering an Old Testament witness to the role and identity of the Messiah long before the Gospels were written. Ultimately, the Book of Enoch continues to captivate us because it is more than just an ancient text. It is an invitation to explore the profound mysteries of faith, the universe, and our own destiny. It challenges us to consider a wider spiritual landscape, one populated by powerful angelic beings, cosmic laws, and a divine plan that spans all of human history. Its survival against the odds feels like a testament to its enduring power. The book asks us to look beyond the accepted story and question what else might be true, encouraging a journey of discovery into forbidden visions that have haunted and inspired seekers of truth for millennia. The Book of Enoch opens with a cataclysmic event that forever alters the course of human history, a moment of celestial rebellion that bridges the gap between heaven and earth. In the days before the Great Flood, a group of 200 divine beings, known as the Watchers, gazed down from their heavenly posts. They were tasked with watching over humanity, but their vigilance turned to lust. They saw the daughters of men, how beautiful they were, and an unholy desire began to burn within them. This was not a fleeting temptation, but a conspiracy that grew in the heart of their leader, an angel named Semjaza, who feared he would bear the blame for this great sin alone. He gathered his celestial brethren on the summit of Mount Hermon, a place that would become infamous for the oath they swore. There they bound themselves to one another with mutual curses, vowing to descend to earth together and take human wives, regardless of the consequences. This was a profound violation of divine law. Angels were created as spiritual beings, intended to serve God in the celestial realms, not to intermingle with the mortal flesh and blood world. Their descent was a deliberate act of defiance against the Creator, an abandonment of their sacred duty and their heavenly home for the fleeting pleasures of the flesh. They forsook eternity for a moment of earthly passion. This act of rebellion represents a pivotal moment in the spiritual history of the world as described by Enoch. It introduces a new and potent source of corruption directly into the human experience. Prior to this, humanity's struggles were its own, but the arrival of the Watchers brought a wave of supernatural influence that the world was unprepared for. Their presence was not subtle, they appeared as powerful, glorious beings, and humanity was awestruck. The Watchers did not force themselves upon mankind but rather seduced them with their divine allure and promises of power, initiating a relationship that would lead to unprecedented sin and chaos. The story of the Watchers offers a profound and terrifying explanation for the rapid spread of wickedness that necessitated the flood. It suggests that the evil in the antediluvian world was not merely human in origin, but was amplified and accelerated by fallen divine beings. Their deliberate choice to abandon their first estate, as the Epistle of Jude later echoes, was the original sin that opened a Pandora's box of suffering upon the earth. The sacred boundary between heaven and earth was shattered, and the consequences of this cosmic trespass would soon manifest in monstrous forms and forbidden arts that would corrupt the very soul of humanity. The transgression of the Watchers went far beyond their forbidden unions with human women. Having descended to earth, they began to systematically corrupt humanity by revealing secrets that were never meant for mortal minds. Each of the angelic leaders specialized in a different form of forbidden knowledge, which they eagerly taught to their human companions and offspring. This was not the gentle guidance of a benevolent teacher, but a deliberate act of sabotage, poisoning the well of human culture with arts that would lead to violence, vanity, and a turning away from God. The world was forever changed by these dark revelations. The angel Azazel, one of the most prominent leaders, taught mankind the art of war. He revealed the secrets of metallurgy, showing them how to forge swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. Before this, human conflict may have been primitive, but Azazel armed them for mass slaughter, introducing a new era of bloodshed and violence that saturated the earth. He also taught women the arts of deception and vanity, introducing them to cosmetics, colored tinctures, and the beautifying of eyelids. These teachings fostered pride and seduction, corrupting natural beauty into a tool for lust and envy, further severing humanity's connection to pure and simple living. Other Watchers introduced their own forms of corruption. Semjaza, their leader, taught enchantments and the cutting of roots for magical purposes, introducing sorcery into the world. Barakayal revealed the secrets of astrology, teaching men to read the stars not for navigation or wonder but for divination, encouraging them to seek guidance from the cosmos rather than from the Creator. Kokabel taught the constellations, and Tamiel taught the signs of the sun, while Azradel revealed the course of the moon. This knowledge, while seemingly scientific, was twisted into a form of idolatry, making humanity servants to celestial bodies instead of masters of their own faith. This outpouring of celestial secrets was a catastrophic event. It was a premature and profane enlightenment that humanity was not spiritually prepared to handle. The knowledge itself was not inherently evil, but its context and intent were. It was given to a fallen world by fallen beings, designed to accelerate humanity's spiral into sin. The Watchers effectively weaponized knowledge, turning tools of potential progress into instruments of destruction and damnation. They gave humanity the power to destroy itself and the spiritual justifications to do so, ensuring that the corruption would take deep root in every aspect of society, from warfare to worship. The unholy union between the fallen Watchers and mortal women produced a terrifying and monstrous offspring, the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch describes these beings in horrifying detail, painting a picture far more vivid than the brief mention in Genesis. These were not simply men of great stature. They were giants of immense power and insatiable appetites, a hybrid race that embodied the corrupted nature of their parentage. They stood as a physical testament to the sin that had been committed, a monstrous perversion of God's created order. Their very existence was an abomination, a blight upon the face of the earth. According to Enoch's account, these giants consumed all the acquisitions of men. When humanity could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against the people themselves, beginning to devour them. Their hunger was a bottomless pit, a metaphor for the insatiable nature of sin itself. But their depravity did not stop with cannibalism. The text states they began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles and fish, consuming their flesh and drinking their blood. The Nephilim brought a reign of terror, a time when no living creature was safe from their voracious and violent rampage. The world became a charnel house under their dominion. The Nephilim were the ultimate destroyers, embodying chaos and violence in its purest form. Their presence disrupted the natural order and filled the earth with lawlessness. They were beings of immense physical strength but devoid of spirit or soul in the human sense. They were a dead end in the story of creation, incapable of redemption and destined only for destruction. Their rampage across the antediluvian world created a state of constant fear and suffering. The cries of the oppressed and the devoured rose up to the heavens, a desperate plea for divine intervention from a world that was being systematically torn apart by these monstrous beings. The legacy of the Nephilim, however, extends beyond their physical destruction. The Book of Enoch reveals that when these giants were eventually slain, their spirits could not ascend to heaven nor be completely destroyed. Instead, they were cursed to remain on the earth as malevolent, disembodied entities. These wandering spirits, born from the unholy union of angel and human, became the source of demons. This provides a detailed and chilling origin story for the demonic forces that would continue to plague humanity long after the flood, explaining their persistent desire to torment, mislead, and afflict the children of men, forever continuing the corrupting work of their fallen fathers. As the cries of a tormented humanity reached the heavens, God did not remain silent. The archangels Michael, Uriel, Raphael and Gabriel looked down from the celestial sanctuary and saw the immense bloodshed and lawlessness that covered the earth. They brought a report of the chaos before the Most High, describing how the fallen Watchers led by Azazel had taught unrighteousness and revealed the eternal secrets of heaven. The time for mercy had passed. The era of judgment had begun. God pronounced a swift and terrible sentence upon the architects of this global corruption, a punishment designed to fit their cosmic crime. God dispatched his holy archangels with specific missions of justice. Uriel was sent to Noah, the son of Lamech, to warn him of the coming deluge that would wipe the slate of creation clean. He was instructed to tell Noah how to escape and preserve his seed for all generations. This act of preservation showed that even in judgment, God's plan for humanity would endure. To Raphael, God gave the task of dealing with Azazel, the leader who had taught warfare and vanity. Raphael was commanded to bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into complete darkness in a desert called Dudael, piling jagged rocks upon him until the great day of judgment. The other leaders of the rebellion faced similar fates. Gabriel was sent to destroy the children of the Watchers, the Nephilim, inciting them to war against one another so they would perish by their own hands. To Michael, God gave the command to bind Semjaza and all his associates who had defiled themselves with women. They were to be bound under the hills of the earth for 70 generations, a temporal prison to last until the final judgment, when they would be led away to the abyss of fire and tormented forever. The punishment was absolute, a permanent sealing of their fate for abandoning heaven and corrupting the world. This divine judgment serves as a powerful theme throughout the Book of Enoch. It is a stark reminder that no sin, no matter how high its origin, goes unnoticed or unpunished by God. The binding of the Watchers in chains of darkness under the earth is a potent image of divine justice, one that is directly referenced in the New Testament epistles of Jude and 2 Peter. It establishes a clear precedent. Rebellion against God leads to imprisonment and eventual damnation. The fate of the fallen angels stands as an eternal warning against pride and the transgression of sacred boundaries, demonstrating that the order of the cosmos will, in the end, be violently restored by its creator. After chronicling the fall of the Watchers and the corruption of the earth, Enoch's journey takes a stunning and unprecedented turn. He is no longer just a scribe recording events from a distance, he becomes a central actor in the divine drama. As stated in the Book of Genesis, Enoch walked so closely with God that he was simply taken from the mortal world. He did not taste death. Instead, he was lifted from the earth by the hands of angels, carried away on a whirlwind into the heavens. He became the first human to cross the sacred threshold between the physical and spiritual realms while still alive, chosen to be a witness to things no mortal eyes had ever seen. Enoch's ascension was not merely a passive tour of the cosmos, he was given a divine commission. The fallen Watchers, now bound and awaiting their judgment, called upon him to act as their intercessor. They begged Enoch, a mere mortal, to write a petition for them and to present it before the Most High God, pleading for forgiveness and mercy on their behalf. This was a profound reversal of roles. The celestial beings who once held power over humanity were now humbled, seeking the aid of a righteous man to speak for them. Enoch, filled with a sense of duty and godly fear, agreed to their request, embarking on a mission that would take him deeper into the heart of heaven. The journey itself was terrifying and awe-inspiring. Enoch describes being lifted on clouds, moving faster than the winds, carried by angels whose appearance was like shining crystal. He traveled past the stars and into realms of pure light and intense fire. The experience was overwhelming for his mortal senses, a sensory overload of celestial sights and sounds that pushed the limits of human comprehension. He was a traveler in an alien land, a fragile human being moving through the domain of eternal spirits. His account is filled with a sense of wonder but also with a palpable fear, as he ventures closer and closer to the center of all divine power. This initial journey establishes Enoch as a unique figure in biblical history, a bridge between humanity and the divine court. He is not a king or a high priest in the traditional sense, but a chosen messenger, a man whose righteousness granted him access to the very corridors of heaven. His willingness to carry the petition of the fallen angels even though he knew their sin was great, demonstrates his compassionate character. However, God's response would be swift and final. Enoch was not to be a mediator for their forgiveness, but a messenger of their unalterable doom, a role that would solidify his purpose as a prophet of divine judgment. As Enoch's celestial voyage continued, he was guided through a series of distinct heavenly realms, each more glorious and holy than the last. The Book of Enoch describes a multi-layered cosmos, a structure of 7 heavens stacked one upon the other, each with its own purpose, inhabitants, and level of sanctity. This concept of a tiered heaven was a common feature in ancient cosmology, and provided a framework for understanding the different orders of angels and the progressive stages of holiness. Enoch's journey was a systematic ascent through this divine architecture, revealing the intricate organization of God's kingdom and the cosmic hierarchy that governs all of creation. In the lower heavens, Enoch witnessed scenes of cosmic activity and divine administration. He saw angels who governed the stars, others who controlled the seasons, and vast storehouses for the elements of nature. He passed through celestial gates guarded by glorious beings, each portal leading to a higher state of existence. In one heaven, he saw the fallen angels being held in their prison, a place of darkness and sorrow, a stark contrast to the light-filled realms above. In another, he saw the souls of the dead awaiting their final judgment, separated into groups based on their deeds in life. Each level revealed another facet of God's perfect order and justice. As he ascended higher, the sights became ever more magnificent and sacred. He entered a heaven made entirely of crystal, with a floor and ceiling of shimmering fire, populated by the archangels who stand in the presence of God. He saw the cherubim, the seraphim, and the ophanim, angelic beings who never sleep but eternally guard the throne of the Most High. Their voices joined in a perpetual chorus of praise, chanting "Holy, holy, holy," a sound that vibrated through the very fabric of the celestial realm. For Enoch, a man of flesh and blood, to stand among these purely spiritual beings was a testament to the extraordinary nature of his divine calling. This detailed vision of the seven heavens served a profound theological purpose. It demonstrated that the universe was not a chaotic void but a meticulously organized kingdom, ruled with precision and purpose by a sovereign God. It provided an answer to the ancient question of what lies beyond the sky, painting a picture of a vibrant, active, and ordered spiritual world. Enoch's tour through these realms was a revelation of divine majesty, showing that every star, every soul, and every angel has its designated place in a grand cosmic design. It was a vision intended to inspire awe and reverence for the Creator's infinite wisdom and power. During his journey with the angel Uriel, Enoch was shown the hidden mechanics of the physical world, the celestial storehouses from which all natural phenomena originate. This was not a scientific lesson in the modern sense, but a spiritual revelation of God's direct and continuous control over creation. He was taken to the ends of the earth and saw the treasuries of the winds, where each wind is kept in its own chamber, ready to be released upon the world. He understood that the gentle breeze and the destructive hurricane were not random occurrences but were unleashed from these chambers according to a divine timetable and purpose managed by angelic overseers. Enoch was then shown the storehouses of the snow and the ice, the frost and the hail. He saw vast, cold chambers where these elements were kept in reserve, each particle waiting for its appointed time. He learned that God uses these elements not just to order the seasons, but also as instruments of judgment. The same storehouses that provide life-giving water could also release devastating storms upon the wicked. This vision reinforced the idea that nature itself is an agent of God's will, a powerful tool used to bless the righteous and punish the rebellious, all orchestrated from these unseen celestial treasuries. The journey continued to the sources of light and sound. Enoch beheld the chambers of the sun and the moon, seeing the celestial gates through which they rise and set with perfect regularity, their paths dictated by divine law. He saw the storehouses of the thunder and the lightning, where the flash of light and the roar of the sky are held in check until God commands their release. Each flash of lightning had its purpose and its power was carefully measured. This revelation transformed the natural world from a collection of impersonal forces into a symphony of controlled and meaningful events, all pointing back to the conductor, the Creator himself. By seeing these storehouses, Enoch was given a glimpse into the mind of God. He understood that nothing in creation is accidental. The rain that falls, the sun that shines, and the storms that rage are all part of a grand, intricate system managed from the heavens. This vision demystified the forces of nature while simultaneously imbuing them with profound spiritual significance. For the ancient reader, this was a powerful message of comfort and warning. It assured them that God was in complete control of their world, but it also reminded them that the very elements of that world could be turned against them if they strayed from the path of righteousness. Among the most profound revelations Enoch received was a vision of the afterlife, a preview of the ultimate destinies awaiting all human souls. Before the final judgment, he was shown a place where the spirits of the dead are gathered, kept in waiting until their fate is sealed. This was not a single uniform realm, but a place of separation. He saw 4 hollow places, deep and wide, where souls were divided according to their deeds on earth. This vision provided a detailed spiritual geography of the intermediate state, answering the universal human question of what happens immediately after we die, a topic only hinted at elsewhere in the Old Testament. The first hollow place was for the righteous, a bright and beautiful abode with a spring of water, a place of comfort and peace for those who died in righteousness. These were the souls of the faithful, like Abel, who were awaiting their glorious resurrection and final reward. Here their spirits rested in joyful anticipation. In stark contrast, the other hollows were reserved for sinners. One was for those who were punished in life but were not fully judged, set apart to await a greater torment. Another was for those who cry out for vengeance against their murderers, their pleas rising up until the day their killers are brought to justice. The fourth and most terrible place was for sinners who lived lives of complete wickedness, who feasted with the ungodly and escaped judgment on earth. Their souls were consigned to a place of great pain and darkness, not for rest, but for torment. Enoch was told that these spirits would not be resurrected on the day of judgment. Their punishment was to be bound there forever, their suffering a permanent state, sealed off from any hope of mercy or redemption. This terrifying vision established a clear and uncompromising link between one's earthly actions and their eternal consequences, a core principle of divine justice. Enoch's vision of these waiting places served as a powerful moral lesson. It declared that death is not the end, nor is it a great equalizer. It is instead a great separator. Every action, every choice made in life, has an eternal echo. The righteous are gathered to a place of light and peace, while the wicked are sorted according to their sins, awaiting a judgment that is both certain and just. This detailed picture of the afterlife provided his readers with a potent motivation for righteous living, making it clear that God's memory is long, and his scales of justice are perfectly balanced, weighing the life of every soul that passes from the earth. The climax of Enoch's heavenly journey was his arrival at the very center of all creation, the dwelling place of God himself. He passed through a wall built of vibrating crystals and was surrounded by tongues of living fire. He entered a second house, even greater than the first, made entirely of flame. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars, its floor was a raging fire, and its glory was beyond all description. Here, in this innermost sanctum, he beheld the object of his entire journey, the throne of God. It was a vision of such overwhelming power and holiness that Enoch fell on his face, his mortal frame unable to bear the intensity of the divine presence. The throne itself was a magnificent and terrifying sight. It appeared high and exalted with a likeness of crystal, and its wheels were like the shining sun. From beneath the throne, streams of flaming fire issued forth, an unstoppable river of divine power. He saw the seraphim, cherubim and ophanim, tens of thousands of them surrounding the throne, their unceasing praise creating a sound like a heavenly waterfall. And seated upon this throne of glory, Enoch saw the great glory, the Ancient of Days. He could not describe the face of God, only the immense, unbearable light and majesty that emanated from him, a presence that was both creator and judge of all. As Enoch lay prostrate on the ground, trembling and overwhelmed, the Lord spoke to him with his own voice. God called him forward, telling him not to be afraid. The archangel Michael lifted him to his feet and brought him to the entrance of the throne room. It was here that God gave Enoch his ultimate commission. He was to become a scribe of righteousness, tasked with recording all the visions he had seen, the secrets of the heavens, the workings of the cosmos, the fall of the angels, and the coming judgment. He was to write it all down for the future generations of mankind, a testament that would endure until the end of days. Standing in the presence of God, Enoch was transformed. He was no longer just a man but a prophet, consecrated by the fire of the divine. This experience was the ultimate validation of his mission and his message. He had seen the source of all power, the seat of all justice, and the font of all truth. His words would now carry the weight of divine authority, as he had been a direct witness to the glory of the Most High. This vision of the throne room is the heart of the Book of Enoch, the moment that anchors all its prophecies and revelations in the unshakable reality of God's sovereign and holy reign over the entire universe. After witnessing the structure of the heavens and the fate of souls, Enoch is granted a vision that pierces the veil of time itself. He is shown the culmination of all history, the final act in the divine drama of salvation and judgment. In the section of his book known as the Book of Parables, Enoch beholds a new and mysterious figure standing beside the Ancient of Days, the eternal God. This being has the appearance of a man, yet his countenance is full of grace, like one of the holy angels. His presence is one of immense authority and profound righteousness, a figure who seems to embody both divine power and perfect human virtue, a concept that was revolutionary. This being is given several powerful titles: the Son of Man, the Elect One, and the Righteous One. Enoch is told that this Son of Man was named in the presence of the Lord of Spirits even before the sun and the stars were created. He existed in secret, hidden with God before the world began, and his purpose was now being revealed to Enoch. He is destined to be a staff to the righteous, a light to the nations, and the hope of those who are troubled in heart. This vision provides a stunningly detailed portrait of a messianic figure who is both pre-existent and intimately involved in the final judgment of humanity. The appearance of the Son of Man marks a pivotal moment in Enoch's revelations. It shifts the focus from the judgment of fallen angels to the judgment of all mankind. This figure is not an archangel or a lesser celestial being. He is presented as the ultimate agent of God's justice, possessing a unique relationship with the Ancient of Days. He is the one who will reveal all hidden treasures, for the Lord of Spirits has chosen him. His destiny is to have dominion, and his victory will be eternal. This prophecy, written centuries before the birth of Christ, presents a figure so strikingly similar to the Jesus of the Gospels that it has captivated theologians for generations. This vision of the coming judge is profoundly significant because it introduces a personal, relatable element to the concept of divine judgment. The judge is not an abstract force or a distant, untouchable deity, but a Son of Man, a figure who shares a likeness with humanity yet is imbued with divine glory. It suggests that the ultimate standard of justice is rooted in righteousness and wisdom, embodied in a singular, chosen individual. For Enoch, and for those who would read his words, this vision offered a clear picture of who would preside over the end of days, bringing both terror to the wicked and immense comfort to the faithful. The Book of Enoch goes to great lengths to describe the nature and origin of this Son of Man, emphasizing his eternal and divine status. Enoch is told that this figure was chosen and hidden before him, before the creation of the world and forevermore. This is a radical, theological claim, presenting a messianic judge who is not a future mortal king, but a pre-existent celestial being, co-eternal with God. His existence transcends time and space, making his authority absolute and his wisdom primordial. He is not merely an agent of God, he is a fundamental part of the divine plan, woven into the fabric of creation from before the very beginning. This righteous one is described as the embodiment of perfect justice. Wisdom is poured out like water before him, and righteousness dwells with him forever. His very being is the standard by which all of humanity will be measured. He understands all secrets because he has been with God from the start. This makes his judgment infallible. Unlike human judges who can be swayed by deceit or limited by a lack of knowledge, the Son of Man sees the truth in every heart. He knows the secret thoughts, the hidden motives, and the true weight of every action performed on earth. There is no escaping his perfect and penetrating gaze. The purpose of this pre-existent one is not only to judge but also to save. He is revealed as the ultimate hope for the righteous and the holy. They will be saved in his name. When he appears, the righteous will find a source of strength and salvation, while the powerful sinners of the world will be confounded. His coming is the great reversal, the moment when the cosmic scales are balanced. He will be a light that illuminates the darkness, and those who have walked in righteousness will be drawn to him, while those who have loved the darkness will be exposed and judged by his glorious appearance. This depiction of a pre-existent divine savior and judge provides a powerful backdrop to the later Christian understanding of Jesus Christ, who used the title Son of Man more than any other to describe himself. Enoch's vision paints a picture of a Messiah who is far more than a political leader or a human prophet. He is a cosmic being, the source of all wisdom and the ultimate arbiter of fate. This ancient text presents a fully formed concept of a divine judge who was part of God's essence before time began, waiting for the appointed moment to reveal his glory and execute his perfect judgment upon the world. Enoch's vision of the final judgment focuses with particular intensity on the fate of the most powerful people on earth, the kings, the mighty, and the wealthy landowners. These are the figures who, in their earthly lives, wielded immense power, lived in luxury, and often oppressed the poor and the righteous. They put their trust in their riches and their thrones, denying the Lord of Spirits and persecuting those who venerated his name. On the day of judgment, however, their earthly authority will crumble into dust before the Son of Man, and they will face a terrifying and inescapable reckoning for their arrogance and cruelty. The prophecy describes the dramatic scene of their downfall. When the kings and the mighty behold the Son of Man seated on the throne of his glory, their faces will be filled with terror. They will be struck with pain, like a woman in childbirth who has no means to escape. They will try to flee from his presence, but there will be nowhere to hide. They will cast down their faces in shame and beg for a moment of respite, but their pleas will go unheard. The time for repentance will have passed. Their power, which seems so absolute on earth, will prove to be utterly meaningless in the court of heaven. Enoch is shown that these powerful rulers will be judged not only for their oppression, but for their idolatry and denial of God. They had the opportunity to praise the Lord of Spirits, the one who granted them their kingdoms, but instead they worshipped the works of their own hands and placed their faith in their temporal power. The Son of Man will expose their foolishness and their wickedness. He will hand them over to the angels of punishment, who will execute the divine sentence upon them. Their judgment is a powerful statement that no one, regardless of status, is above the law of God. This specific judgment of the powerful serves as a profound message of hope for the oppressed and a stark warning to those in authority. It affirms that earthly injustice is temporary and that a final, perfect justice will prevail. The vision assures the faithful that God sees their suffering and will hold their persecutors accountable. For the kings and the mighty, it is a reminder that their stewardship of power is a loan from God, and they will one day be called to account for how they used it. The fall of the powerful is depicted as one of the great climactic events of the end times, a dramatic restoration of divine order. While the judgment of the kings is a spectacular event, the vision of the Son of Man extends to all of humanity, creating a great and final separation between the wicked and the righteous. For the sinners and the ungodly, the day of judgment will be a day of utter despair. They who have denied the name of the Lord of Spirits and built their lives upon a foundation of unrighteousness will be driven from the face of the earth. Their names will be blotted out from the book of life, and their final destination will be a place of unimaginable torment, the abyss of fire where the fallen angels are also imprisoned. Enoch describes their fate in chilling detail. They will be delivered to the angels of punishment and cast into a furnace of blazing fire. Their suffering will be eternal, a permanent state of anguish from which there is no escape. The vision emphasizes the finality of this judgment. There are no second chances, no further appeals. The lives they chose on earth have sealed their eternal destiny. This terrifying image serves as the ultimate warning against a life of sin, illustrating that the consequences of rejecting God are not merely temporal but stretch into the infinite expanse of eternity, a dire and irreversible end. In stark and beautiful contrast, the fate of the righteous is one of glorious vindication and eternal joy. On that day, the elect one will preside over them, and their lives will be transformed, their faces will shine with a celestial light, and they will be clothed in garments of glory. They will live in the presence of the Son of Man forever, their suffering and persecution finally at an end. The tears they shed on earth will be wiped away, replaced by unending peace and fellowship with God. Their faithfulness, which often brought them hardship in the mortal world, will be rewarded with an eternal weight of glory. This great separation is the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise. The righteous, who often felt forgotten or abandoned, will be publicly honored and elevated. They will eat and rest and rise with that Son of Man forever and ever. Their resurrection is not just to life, but to a life of honor, peace, and communion with their Savior. The judgment, therefore, is not merely an act of punishment, but also an act of supreme restoration. It is the moment when the righteous are finally brought home, their long night of struggle ending in the dawn of an eternal day, their faithfulness vindicated before all of creation. Enoch's vision ends with the ultimate promise, a new heaven and a new earth, where all creation is reborn, free from sin and suffering. In this eternal paradise, the righteous dwell with God, the Son of Man among them. and the story concludes not with judgment but with everlasting light and harmony. After visions of judgment, Enoch is guided by the angel Uriel, who reveals that the universe is governed by divine order, every star, every season, all moving by God's precise law. Uriel's tour shows Enoch that the harmony of the heavens is a model for human life. As the cosmos obeys its creator, so should we. Uriel reveals to Enoch the sun's sacred journey through 6 eastern and 6 western gates, marking the seasons and days with perfect precision. The sun's faithful path is a daily reminder of God's order, its light and warmth a gift, its obedience a lesson for all creation. Enoch learns the moon's phases are set by divine law, its borrowed light a symbol of the righteous reflecting God's glory. The moon's cycle marks time and order, but when humanity strays, even the heavens reflect the chaos below. Uriel shows Enoch that every star is led by an angel, each fulfilling its role in a vast, ordered celestial army. The stars are not masters of fate, but obedient servants, reminding us that the universe is ruled by purpose, not chance. The culmination of Uriel's teachings in the astronomical book is a single powerful truth. The entire universe operates under the authority of divine law. From the grand sweep of the sun's yearly journey to the subtle waxing and waning of the moon, and the precise movements of the stars, every element of the cosmos is bound by rules it cannot break. This cosmic law is a direct expression of God's character. It is orderly, predictable, faithful, and good. The physical laws that govern the heavens are a mirror of the moral laws that should govern humanity. The universe itself is a testament to the nature of its king. This understanding of a law-bound universe provides a foundation for faith. If God can be trusted to command the sun to rise every morning and the seasons to change in their appointed time, then he can also be trusted to keep his promises to his people. The reliability of nature is proof of the reliability of God. This concept provides a deep sense of security and stability in a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable. The cosmic order is a visible anchor for an invisible faith, demonstrating that behind everything is a mind of infinite wisdom and a will of unshakable power. Enoch contrasts this perfect cosmic obedience with the disobedience of humanity. While the sun, moon, and stars never deviate from their assigned paths, humans constantly transgress the laws given to them. The book laments that humanity does not observe the law of the Lord. This comparison serves as a powerful rebuke. The silent, inanimate objects of creation are more faithful to their Creator than His own children, to whom He gave reason and free will. The heavens, in their perfect and silent obedience, stand as a perpetual witness against the rebellion and sinfulness of mankind down on earth. Ultimately, the revelation of cosmic order is a call to righteousness. It invites the reader to look up at the heavens and learn a lesson in faithfulness. Just as the universe functions in perfect harmony by following the laws of its Creator, so too can humanity find peace, stability, and its true purpose by aligning its will with the moral laws of God. The astronomical book is far more than an ancient calendar or a primitive science text. It is a profound theological meditation on the glory of God as revealed in His creation. It declares that the universe is a symphony and the conductor is God. The righteous are those who learn to play their part in tune. In one of the most remarkable and complex sections of his book, Enoch is given a sweeping vision that covers the entire expanse of human history, from the very beginning to the final judgment. This revelation, known as the animal apocalypse, is not presented in literal terms but through a long and intricate allegory. In a dream, Enoch sees the history of the world unfold as a drama played out by various animals. Humans are represented as sheep and rams, while the angelic and demonic forces, as well as the Gentile nations that oppress Israel, are depicted as birds of prey, wild beasts, and other symbolic creatures. This symbolic language creates a powerful, dreamlike narrative of God's divine plan. The vision begins with a single white bull representing Adam, from which emerges a heifer, representing Eve. Their offspring are then shown as bulls and heifers of different colors, black, red, and white, symbolizing the early generations of mankind, including the sin of Cain, a black bull, and the righteousness of Abel, a white bull. This pastoral scene quickly gives way to chaos and violence, mirroring the growing corruption of humanity. The use of these simple agrarian symbols makes the profound spiritual history of the world accessible and visually potent, transforming abstract concepts of sin and righteousness into a tangible, unfolding story of a flock and its struggle for survival. This allegorical approach allows Enoch to convey sensitive and complex historical events and prophecies in a veiled manner. Each animal and its actions are imbued with deep symbolic meaning. The white sheep represent the righteous lineage of Israel, beginning with Abraham and culminating in the flock led by Moses. The rams are their leaders, the patriarchs, judges, and kings. The wild beasts that attack the flock, lions, tigers, wolves, and wild boars, represent the oppressive Gentile empires like Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, and Persia. This symbolic menagerie creates a vivid and dynamic tapestry of history, highlighting the constant struggle between God's chosen people and the hostile world around them. The animal apocalypse is more than just a creative retelling of the past. It is a prophecy that demonstrates God's complete sovereignty over history. By showing Enoch the entire timeline in a single, continuous vision, God reveals that nothing has happened by chance. Every covenant, every apostasy, every judgment, and every act of salvation was foreseen and is part of a larger divine narrative. The dream assures the reader that even in the darkest moments of suffering and oppression, when the flock is scattered and devoured, a divine shepherd is watching over them, guiding history toward its predetermined and glorious conclusion. Enoch's epic dream vision, meticulously chronicles the major turning points in the early history of God's people. After the initial generations, which are represented by bulls, the vision shifts to the fall of the Watchers in a striking new form. Stars are seen falling from heaven, transforming into bulls that mingle with the earthly cattle, and they breed these monstrous elephants, camels, and asses, a clear allegory for the Nephilim. This event, of course, leads to the Great Flood, which Enoch sees as a vast abyss of water swallowing everyone except for one white ram, Noah, who is saved in an ark along with his family. From this single surviving ram, the flock of humanity begins anew, a fresh start for a wounded world. The vision then follows the lineage of this ram, showing the birth of the 12 patriarchs, the sons of Jacob, who are represented as 12 white sheep. The story of Joseph, who is sold by his brothers, is vividly portrayed as one of the sheep being separated from the flock and taken away by wolves into the land of Egypt. The rest of the flock follows, and soon they are oppressed by the wolves, who begin to blind the sheep and multiply their own numbers. This period of suffering in Egypt marks a dark chapter for the flock, a time when their vision is clouded and their freedom is lost, setting the stage for a dramatic divine intervention. The great deliverance from Egypt is shown through the figure of a great ram, Moses, who is sent to lead the flock out of bondage. The plagues upon Egypt are depicted as the judgment of the Lord of the sheep upon the wolves. Moses leads the flock through a sea that parts for them but, closes upon their pursuers. In the wilderness, they receive the law at Mount Sinai, which is shown as a high tower built for the Lord of the sheep. Here, the covenant is established and the flock is given its sacred instructions. However, the vision does not shy away from Israel's failures, showing how the sheep repeatedly go astray and provoke the Lord's anger. This historical survey, from Adam to Moses, really establishes the central theme of the animal apocalypse: the faithfulness of the Lord of the sheep, contrasted with the persistent unfaithfulness of the flock itself. Despite their repeated straying and their vulnerability to predators, the Lord never completely abandons them. He provides leaders, delivers them from their enemies, and establishes a covenant with them, continually calling them back to himself. This history is a story of divine patience and redemptive purpose, showing that God's plan for his people will not be thwarted by their weakness or the world's wickedness. As the allegorical history continues, Enoch's vision enters a prolonged period of tragedy and decline. After the time of the judges and the building of the first temple in Jerusalem, a grand house for the flock, the sheep begin to stray more than ever before. Enoch sees the Lord of the sheep handing them over to various predators. Lions, tigers, and dogs, representing the Babylonian and Persian empires, are allowed to tear the flock apart. The grand house, the temple, is destroyed, and the sheep are scattered across the world. This is a painful depiction of Israel's exile, a time of national disaster brought on by their own spiritual blindness and disobedience. During this period, Enoch sees that the Lord of the sheep appoints shepherds to care for the flock in his absence. These shepherds, representing the human leaders of Israel during the Second Temple period, are given a specific number of sheep to watch over. However, most of these shepherds, well, they prove to be corrupt. They kill more sheep than they were commanded, they abandon them to the wild beasts, and they act for their own gain. The Lord of the sheep records the wickedness of these shepherds, but for a time he remains silent, allowing the age of blindness and suffering to continue as a period of judgment upon his people. The vision describes the growing blindness of the flock. The sheep's eyes are opened a little, but they cannot see clearly. They are born as blind lambs, and their blindness persists, making them easy prey for the ravenous birds and beasts that surround them. This spiritual blindness represents Israel's inability to recognize God's true will and their failure to see the path of righteousness. It is a time of confusion, false leadership, and deep spiritual darkness, where the people suffer not only from external oppression, but also from a profound internal sickness. The flock is leaderless, lost, and unable to find its way back to safety. But in the midst of this despair, the vision offers a glimmer of hope. It prophesies that the Lord of the sheep will eventually intervene directly. He will come down himself to oversee the judgment. The vision culminates in the birth of lambs with great horns, representing the rise of righteous leaders like the Maccabees, who fight back against the birds of prey. This resistance marks the beginning of the end of the age of blindness. It signals that the long night of suffering is drawing to a close, and the time is approaching for the true shepherd to appear, gather his scattered flock, and execute a final decisive judgment. The climax of Enoch's historical vision is a dramatic scene of final judgment. The Lord of the sheep takes his seat on a high throne in a pleasant land. The sealed books, which recorded the evil deeds of the corrupt shepherds and the birds of prey, are opened before him. The blind sheep are judged first, and their eyes are opened, allowing them to see the truth. Then, the 70 corrupt shepherds are judged and cast into a fiery abyss. This is followed by the judgment of all the wild beasts and birds of prey that ever tormented the flock. They too are gathered and thrown into the same fiery pit. This great judgment represents the final victory of God over all the forces of evil that have plagued humanity throughout history. It is a moment of ultimate justice and vindication for the righteous flock. The old world, with its violence, oppression, and sin, is purged by divine fire. All enemies are vanquished, and the long era of suffering is brought to a definitive end. The Lord of the sheep personally presides over this event, demonstrating his absolute authority and his unwavering commitment to justice. The judgment is not just an ending but a purification, clearing the way for a new beginning. After the judgment is complete, Enoch sees the Lord of the sheep bring forth a new house, far grander and loftier than the first one. This new house represents a new kingdom, a new Jerusalem, a new creation. The old, scattered flock is gathered and brought into this new house to dwell in peace and safety forever. But the vision does not end there. All the surviving white sheep are transformed, and the Lord of the sheep rejoices over them. Furthermore, all the wild animals and birds that were judged are reborn as white bulls, becoming part of this new, unified community. This symbolizes the Messianic age, a time of universal peace and reconciliation. This final scene is one of profound hope and restoration. The vision concludes not with destruction but with renewal. The old divisions and hostilities are erased. The flock is no longer a vulnerable group of sheep, but a strong and unified community living in a new, perfect world under the direct care of their Lord. This prophecy, spanning all of history, ultimately declares that God's purpose is not just to judge evil, but to create a new reality of righteousness, peace, and universal fellowship. It is the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise to make all things new, a new Eden where the shepherd dwells with his flock forever. The Book of Enoch, though ultimately excluded from the canonical Bible by most traditions, did not simply vanish into obscurity. Its powerful ideas and vivid imagery left an indelible mark on the religious thought of its time, creating echoes that reverberate throughout the pages of the New Testament. Early Christian writers and thinkers were clearly familiar with Enoch's work, and its influence can be traced in their language, theology, and apocalyptic expectations. The book served as a crucial bridge, carrying concepts from the intertestamental period directly into the foundational texts of Christianity, shaping the very vocabulary used to describe angels, demons, judgment, and the Messiah. The most direct and undeniable evidence of its influence is found in the Epistle of Jude, which explicitly quotes a prophecy from 1 Enoch chapter 1 verse 9. Jude warns against false teachers by citing Enoch's proclamation of the Lord, coming with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all. This direct citation demonstrates that, for at least some early Christians, the Book of Enoch was held in high regard as a legitimate prophetic authority. Similarly, the second epistle of Peter contains strong parallels to Enoch's account of the fallen angels, describing them as being cast into chains of gloomy darkness in Tartarus, awaiting judgment, a narrative detail that is far more developed in Enoch than in Genesis. Beyond direct quotes, Enoch's thematic influence is profound, especially concerning the figure of the Son of Man. Enoch's vision of a pre-existent divine being who presides over the final judgment provides a stunning precedent for the Gospel's portrayal of Jesus. When Jesus repeatedly refers to himself as the Son of Man, he is tapping into a rich tradition of messianic expectation that was significantly shaped by Enoch's parables. The concept of a heavenly judge who is both divine and human-like, who existed before creation, and who will bring justice for the righteous, finds its most detailed Old Testament-era expression in the pages of this forbidden book. Furthermore, the apocalyptic worldview of the Book of Revelation, with its visions of celestial thrones, angelic warfare, a final judgment, and a new Jerusalem, shares a deep spiritual and literary kinship with Enoch's heavenly journeys and his animal apocalypse. Both texts seek to pull back the curtain on the unseen spiritual realities that govern history, assuring the faithful that God is in control, and that a final glorious victory is certain. The Book of Enoch, therefore, is not just an outlier but a vital piece of the puzzle, a lost chapter that helps to explain the theological and visionary landscape from which the New Testament emerged, enriching our understanding of its core message. Beyond its spectacular prophecies and celestial journeys, the Book of Enoch delivers a core message that is both timeless and deeply personal, a powerful and honestly urgent call to righteousness. The entire narrative, from the judgment of the Watchers to the final vision of the Son of Man, serves as a grand moral framework designed to guide human behavior in a world corrupted by sin and spiritual darkness. Enoch's story is not meant merely to satisfy curiosity about the heavens. It is intended to transform lives on earth. It repeatedly draws a sharp, uncompromising line between the path of the righteous and the path of the wicked, making the eternal consequences of that choice terrifyingly clear. The book functions as a profound warning against the sins of pride, violence, and rebellion. The fate of the fallen angels is the ultimate cautionary tale. They were powerful, glorious beings who stood in the presence of God, yet their pride and lust led to their eternal damnation. Their story serves as a mirror for humanity, warning that no amount of power, knowledge, or status can protect one from the consequences of defying God's law. Likewise, the judgment of the mighty kings and the wealthy landowners underscores the message that earthly power is fleeting, and that true value lies not in riches or authority, but in justice, mercy, and faithfulness to God. Enoch's writings are also a source of great encouragement for those who strive to live righteously in a world that often seems to reward wickedness. The book consistently affirms that the suffering of the faithful does not go unnoticed by God. The cries of the oppressed reach the heavens, and every act of injustice is recorded in the celestial books, awaiting the day of reckoning. This provides immense comfort, assuring believers that their perseverance in faith, their commitment to justice, and their endurance through persecution have profound cosmic significance. They are participants in a divine drama, and their faithfulness guarantees their ultimate vindication and reward in the coming kingdom. Ultimately, the call to righteousness in the Book of Enoch is a call to align oneself with the divine order that governs the entire universe. Just as the sun, moon, and stars follow their appointed paths in perfect obedience, so too should humanity walk in the laws laid out by the Creator. To be righteous is to live in harmony with God's will, to reflect His light in a world of shadows, and to trust in His ultimate plan for justice and restoration. The book is an invitation to choose a side in the great cosmic conflict, to turn away from the path of the fallen and walk with God, just as Enoch himself did. In its final analysis, the Book of Enoch is a profound testament to hope. While it is filled with terrifying visions of judgment and detailed accounts of sin and corruption, its ultimate trajectory is always aimed toward a future of glorious restoration and eternal peace. The book pierces the veil of our mortal reality, not just to show us the spiritual battles being waged, but to reveal the final, triumphant outcome that God has ordained from before the creation of the world. It is a promise that the present darkness is temporary, and that a new dawn, illuminated by the very glory of God, is waiting for the faithful. This hope is anchored in the unwavering character of God Himself. The Lord of Spirits, the Ancient of Days, is depicted as being perfectly just, infinitely wise, and completely sovereign over all of history. Nothing happens outside of His knowledge or His control. The rebellion of the Watchers, the oppression of empires, and the blindness of the flock are all woven into a divine narrative that culminates in a perfect and final resolution. This assurance of God's sovereignty provides a powerful antidote to despair, allowing believers to face the trials of life with the confidence that a divine plan is unfolding, leading inexorably toward a good and glorious end. The ultimate embodiment of this hope is the figure of the Son of Man. He is the promise of a justice that is not abstract or impersonal, but is embodied in a righteous and merciful Savior. His coming represents the great turning point of history, the moment when all wrongs are made right, when the righteous are lifted up, and when a new age of peace begins. The promise of dwelling with this Son of Man forever is the pinnacle of Enoch's vision, offering a future that is not just an escape from suffering, but an entrance into a life of joyful, eternal communion with God and His chosen Messiah. Thus, the Book of Enoch, for all its mystery and controversy, remains a powerful source of spiritual inspiration. It reminds us that our world is part of a much grander cosmic story, and that our lives have eternal significance. It is a promise that the Lord remembers the faithful, that He hears their cries, and that He will one day wipe away every tear. Even so, as the choirs of heaven sing and the righteous await their vindication, the enduring message of Enoch echoes through the millennia, a call to walk in faith, to live in righteousness, and to hold fast to the blessed hope of a world made new.